function. We need to implement such an init page. So function init page, where we're going to actually do something. So in this case, we say, okay, let's load our users. Get users for first page. So we might pass the page number. So we need a function get users, obviously. Get users page. So the page that we're looking at. So yes. So how do we do that? We create a function here that will make our request and then send it off. Important here to remember is that in JavaScript requests, they're always what we call asynchronous. They will return immediately, but they will not actually get you the result immediately. Instead, what they do is they will get you the they will allow you to say, what do I do when it's actually loaded? And so we have a ready state. So what we do in here is we make the request. We pass, in this case, the get method. So some people ask how you do this with post. So you just type in post or put or delete. It's that simple. And then you make the request like that. Or in our case, what we would do is just get rid of this bit and make it work correctly. I didn't implement users, so I will, for testing purposes, probably don't want to do that yet. What I can do is put the code in that we would have wanted. So, and we maybe say, okay, to do. And so that reminds us. So the to do means that when we look here at this task tab, we can actually see there's a to do here. We can see, okay, I want to go. What do I still need to do? So this allows you to put nodes in that are easily findable. But then, and then you call a function to render your users that then interact with your DOM. I will give you the example implementation of that function. There are some important things to keep in mind. So first of all, this function does not clear your rows. So you need to count how many rows there are. There should only be one because the header row in the table that was provided needs to stay. So you, as long as there's more than one, you just remove a row. So something like while table.rows is bigger than 1. We do something like table dot remove row 1. We have a quick check that that is the correct way of removing it. Delete row. That's my JavaScript is not perfect. I know well how to program, but the specifics of JavaScript, I don't really do too much in JavaScript. One thing we can do is say, okay, this is a table. We have the table, so we don't need to get that again. This just tells me how many rows we have. Again, we don't need to really get this. We can just get rid of this. What this does, so now we just put in the original function. What happens is when you load, when you click to the next page, you will delete, call a function that deletes stuff. I want to delete here because then I know that it's always called before I actually render users. So now we want to look at the actual data that we have been passed along from here. So when we received the response, we check that it's in this case 200. So technically, you would probably want to check that it is bigger than or equal to 200 and exit_status is smaller than 300, because all codes in the 200 range are valid. Although 200 is the one that you should probably receive. 300 will be a redirect or something like that. Various other codes that you possibly want to handle as well. In any case, normally you just get 200, so don't worry about that. So we parse the thing, we get the users, and then we call the render users with this object. So now in this object, what did that look like? Well, we know what we sent, didn't we? We sent something that has these particular. We get a JavaScript dictionary with these 5 keys. Okay, let's reformat this. Oh, it doesn't want to reformat that. I hope this will work. This should work. But it's Python, so we don't always know exactly how we will want to deal with indentation. Right, so we have these properties. So if we look at the script, what we can see here is that we create our cells. So how do we know what to create? Well, in users.html, we know exactly what it looks like. In this case, we have the table users, which has these headers, and then we have here things. So this class information is basically something that you can add to a tag so that it will be able to link to your CSS. The default implementation uses the W3 School CSS style. You can use that. There's many other ones. There's Bootstrap. There's piles. I would advise, don't make it too complex. Just stick with something that's straightforward for you to understand. What we have, so we set these different classes, and then you can insert cell. In this case, it says, okay, insert cells. And then for these cells, so it stores the cell that we inserted, and then we put the data in there. And in particular, so just as inner HTML, you could also have a very big. Instead of having cells, you could just do the inner HTML of the table row and call that with the HTML that you need, whatever you prefer in a way. And then you, so we can say something, okay, what's the page number? We just get whatever page we get out of our data, the total pages we get out of that data. Because as you, if you look at the data returned by request, or request, it will return these properties as well. When we now run this, we shouldn't need to actually reload Flask, but let's just reload Flask. That might always make things work slightly better. Let me. Didn't need that one. There we are. When we reload this page, we should now have more data. Or we didn't. How can we test this? We know whether it actually works. So what we just do is we just say, okay, all these rows, we just select them and we comment them out. Okay, we need HTML comments, other kind of comments. I don't know why the other ones are there, they're not valid. When we load it up again, okay, do anything. So why didn't it do anything? Let's go and look in the inspection. It says, okay, that shouldn't really matter. We still, it says app was here, but somehow it gets the old version of the JavaScript. So, okay, because we don't have app was here in here anymore, do we? So it got a cached version. So big challenge is always that we have this cache stuff. So we do stop and rerun, and we sometimes need to also reload it hard. So if you press the equals, then it should work. Now we can see that it is gradually being populated with the data. And you saw it actually being added as we went along. So that is basically how that works. So let's get back to so now you see how we can actually link that up. Obviously we would want to do this for our own application. So what you need to do is basically implement the users API. So what was the URL that we were going to place? So API/users/page. You can start with ignoring the page, but obviously at some point you want to use this. One thing you want to do is you don't want to put the query string as part of your root. Query string comes as part of your request, so you can get it from the request. And there's some example in here that I think should be somewhere there, somewhere an example that I had, but we can look at it again. So we could create a new root, so root API.users. So you can also add, say it's only there for methods.get, only for a get request. So by default, so you can say which methods does this particular function respond to. And of course you can get from the request what the particular one was. So def get user list. And we don't take the request, say, so we say, okay, page equals request dot get what was the particular code for that? Well, we'd have to look it up, isn't it? So API, how do we get our request thing? So actually we might want to just go to the overview of the documentation, and we can then say the quick start is something that we can look at. Okay, accessing request data. Guess what it will tell us? How can we get request data? So here is how you can get your post data. Zoom it in. But we can also, you can use a there's where we are. So we can get the particular form data that we are being passed. So in this case, form will get both the data that's okay, we need the method attribute for a guest attribute, and if it's a post or a put, you can get it through form. Okay, we know how to deal with that now. So we need the dot method, and that was it, wasn't it? Yes, it's the no, the request method or request.args. Sorry, I didn't read it carefully. This request.args. So let's get back to PyCharm then, because method, that's naming is very important. And then we should be able to just get the argument page or something like. Let me have a quick look at regress what the page argument was. So we get is, so yes, it is just called page. Okay, we know how to deal with that. In the right space, so it's page, so the page number. And what we can then do is basically we return, so basically in our case we want to kind of return the right kind of data. So in our case what we need to return is, so we're not doing the paging at this point. The paging we'll leave as an exercise for you, but we can return some data. So we need to look back at what is the data we actually need to provide, and we can just go out and create a comment that where we are going to store that so that we can see what the data is that we need. So we have list users, so we have the data property, we have the and we have these properties. So we need to have these properties. Let's copy them into PyCharm. That we can then use to return this result. So we just select all this stuff and we just Control/ will comment it all out for us. We can look at what it is. So we need to call, we probably want to do something like, okay, we return, we need the per page property. Per page. Let's just cheat here. User, so len user list, comma. So total is the same length of the user list. Then we need total pages. And that one would be 1 in our case, because we don't have paging yet, but we want everything else to work. So, and then we can return, and we now need our, so our data, which just happens to be exactly the format a user list has. So we just put in user list. Now, when we have this, we can, we want to be able to then get our user list not from regress, but from our page itself. So in this case, now we comment this one out and we do the other one. So we have the different URL where we can then get our data from our thing. So yes, I'll try to break down the lecture into parts, but not as fast. Okay, there is an error here. Okay, yeah, oh yeah. There is an error in my code. Where is it? This one we need to get rid of. That's probably not going to be happy. Let's see if that works again. The Python is very finicky. Okay, doesn't like that either. What if we comment this out? Yeah, so it is that function. Okay, let's uncomment that. So we have this root API. Oh, okay, I think no. Yes, the root bit. So perhaps if I first put this one here, then it would work. Otherwise, we'd need to have a function that just dispatches it broadly. So what happens? So it's probably the root that was, yes. So it is the problem is that this one doesn't do, so the user ID could be not present. So okay, what we are going to do then is if user ID, so len equals 0, then return get user list. For now, and then we remove the root. This should work. It's a bit of a hack. And now when we go and get the users, okay, it can't find. Oh yes, because we need run it again. Okay, I'm not sure what is so users 1. So this one works. So I don't know what's the reason why this one doesn't work. Let's call it users 2 for now, and then let's skip debugging that because we are just going to run out of time. So it's not that. Let's. It is something that goes wrong here. This one we could return. So are we complete here? There is it. Where does it? Okay. Oh, the method bit that is the problem. So the yes, typos are always cool. Methods equals that should be it. Yes, reading the error message is very important, even though it kind of hides away lots of crap. Now we should be able to get users. It says we can't understand it. That's a cool one. Probably because I didn't pass a page. Users page equals 1. Yes, there we are. So it creates an error when we don't pass a page. Not something you would normally you would want to test, is there a page property, and if there isn't, you do something, you just have it be 1. So now we get this data. We see how this works. We should also be able to load it in our web page, and then treat that as the completion of our exercise. There we are. We have our 2 results that I added. You can see now it works. Same functionality, a different place where you get the data. That's how that works.